for instance, is it Toronto that they built this thing which is basically like it goes up and then there's a huge building in the sky with on top of two towers in it, really amazing. That says something, doesn't it? That's what it says. Of course, it's fun and ambitious and a bit of a challenge. The university's brand tends to be actually the colours, the external facing colours are a bit like the ones they used on the old Rover dealership, isn't it? So maroon and grey, you know.
I play that down a lot more than the. When I was at the Royal College of Art, it was the most useless set of buildings I've ever encountered. I was in the Mizzenbutz down on Queen Street, which basically post-war a nappy canteen for the Science Museum. The other building was that post-70s Kensington Door building that was at the top there. And then there was another building that was next to the V&A, which is the painting department. It's utterly undefined by its presence. Utterly undefined. But my one main memory being there was one occasion, which was, I would say, is defined by space, was when Buckminster Fuller came to talk to give a guest lecture at the Royal College of Art. I had this memory of a big amphitheatre, and I can't remember whether there was even an amphitheatre there, but there was 5,000 people standing, listening to a black suited figure with black spectacles next to what I remember, but it might not have been there, it might have been in my dream a geodesic day, but because he talked for 2 hours about structures, and people were absolutely rapt, and whether it's true or not, my memory or vision of this is just people in a kind of big amphitheatre. It's very Republican. It's incredibly Republican.
And the brand of the RCA is clearly that there are not many places where Buckminster Fuller would even probably be getting out to give those sorts of talks.
Yes.
Now, what I was going to say actually was that I think if you look at the printed material we now produce, the current and the previous prospectus, which were a radical departure for the university, we have abandoned, if you like, the concept of the visual graphical brand. And instead, what's really important to us in those books is that they show people engaging.
The new one's just about to come out, isn't it?
Yes.
There's one that's been in print for 2 years, which gives out a kind of original sense about how this thing works. And there's a new print, a new version coming out in a couple of weeks' time.
And the marketing people are very proud of it because I think the last one really won a national award. And yet it's the first piece of print they've done that almost completely throws away the university brand. You know, can I just borrow this? You know how the university has this thing which is a bit weird, which that's your page. The idea was that the corner should be cut off, and this was the cutting edge. And of course, it never is cut off because that's expensive. So they print, and they've got this weird thing that goes like that halfway across. Please say the new creative director is actually completely changing all that. But meanwhile, the people who did the design for the last SIAD brochure prospectus, who have to conform to all this in their daily work. The guy got his girlfriend to stitch that in wobbly hand stitching that on a piece of canvas. No, he stitched that. It was wobbly stitching and photographed it as a kind of rebellion against this highly conformist brand. So his girlfriend did it in front of the TV, hand stitching. And it was really great because I said, "Oh, that's cool. Can we make that slightly weird?" Sorry, no, it was all hand stitched. It wasn't photoshopped, you know. So we were very proud of that. It was not only it was a very individualistic document, but it even had a little subversive acknowledgement of the university's brand by someone's girlfriend's hand stitching.
Should we more on again about the cultism and the cult shows?
Oh yeah. When you
just before we move on,
from
that, what I can take is that you're really not expecting any kind of iconic scheme that would attract people just by its architecture. That's kind of what I was trying to ask with the question is that as a physical object, there's no brand for it to fit in. So what?
Be careful
what's
about
the
that.
message that is true?
Yeah.
Never give up on.
Because it says something about the city as well.
Never give up on the ambition. Right now, which is our foreground building? It's probably the Sheaf building, isn't it? It's probably the one. If you wanted a building which you could point to and say that's at least part of the Institute of Arts, sadly it's the Sheaf building. It's the most visible.
No, but
it's like the university's
let's
front
be fair,
front
let's be
door.
fair. Being unspecific about that, I mean, both, I think do share the notion of what is looking where the potential lies in the current spaces. And about two years ago, when we were moving down from Salter Lane, we did loads of little walk rounds, and we identified spaces that function at this level in this way. And actually, they were clustering more around sheep than they were anywhere else. But the other thing is we had what we call Gallery Alley, which is the walk. The Aaron is I don't even remember the name of the road. The road that runs down to Furnival.
Oh, Arundel Street. Yeah.
Arundel Street. It runs from the Furnival Gallery by Sire Gallery up to this space here where Muddy's thing is shown.
Past the little craft gallery
Across the
and the cafe.
new craft down there. Is quite an
Yeah,
interesting
but
social
what I was going to say about Sheaf actually is that I find it deeply sad that the only building you can point to, because Jeff's emerged in a big block of this, something like you are, fine art tucked out round the corner, out of the way somewhere, is this big, dirty grey slab, and yet it's the most. As you come out of the railway station, all that nice urban landscaping going on, you've got this horrible, great, mucky building. If someone came up with a scheme that said, A, this expresses what goes on in this place, and B, when you walk towards the university, you are seeing something that says about creativity in the university, I don't think we'd have any objections whatsoever.
There was a lot of discussion on about gateways.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing about that sheaf and its proximity to the station, and the little bit of the space that is just the apron. It's the apron space to that concourse.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's owned by sorry. Yes. Yeah. It's owned by Yorkshire Ford only. That's right. I found out quite expensive about that. But that notion that if you go into the university, you go up that central thing to whatever. If you wanted to go to the Arts Institute, you go in a slightly different direction. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of have a different difference of purpose.
I'm sure you've all thought the same things that we've all thought about what happens as you walk up through those rather expensive
Toadstools.
gates.
The gates.
You know, someone took some trouble over those gates, and yet what do they lead into? It's a kind of
Nothing.
a very interesting, potentially, but totally dead space.
There we go.
You know.
And that space near the Eric Mansforth top of the where it's now the IT foundry, got some mailers there. That flagged space, big flagged area with absolutely nothing in it, not even a weed in the paving slabs. So there's a large amount surrounding the Eric Mansforth and sheep. These where people do congregate for a fag because I smoke out see people out there, but there are totally unutilised areas because it's arid.
One more thing I'll say about branding actually is that the university has this brand which is sort of signs in this colour, isn't it? Everywhere you go there's this signage that looks the same. And if you go down there, there's this place called the Learning Foundry, which has got a different sign. And the reason is that it's part of the Research Institute, which includes a number of design and art groups, and there's a graphic packaging consultancy in it. And they just knocked out their own sign. And I think it's just sufficiently not challenging, and they're aimed at industry, not at everyone. You know, they're part of the university, but not quite. And I always think about this sign, which is black with different colours on it, and just seeing it there is almost like a fresh drink of cold water. You know, suddenly you walk into this bland corporate environment, and bing, someone's put a little something there, which is not looking the same as everything else. It's just great, even though it's actually very ordinary.
So it's been like it's getting more like Debenhams and Marks and Spencers.
Yeah, that's
all the different sub-brands going on.
So yeah.
So when you described at the start of before you started the presentation, you described sort of the institute as the best kept secret. So you wanted to be more in your face, more
it's only
so people engage with it more and can see what's going on. Because at the moment, you don't know where it is.
Well, it isn't anywhere.
You're telling me how fragmented it is.
That's
But
right.
you told me